My mom lied about Grandpa's emergency just to steal $5 million from me, but she didn't know I'd fight back. Hi, I'm Olivia, and this is the story of how my own family betrayed me, stole $5 million from my inheritance, and tried to erase me from everything. But what they didn't know is I wasn't the same quiet, obedient daughter they raised, and I was about to take everything back. It started like any normal day. I was sipping my second cup of coffee in my Dallas apartment, scrolling through my presentation notes. I was flying to New York the next morning for a major finance conference, something I'd worked my whole career for. As a 29-year-old financial analyst, I'd built my success from scratch. No shortcuts, no handouts, just grit and late nights. Then my phone rang. Mom flashed on the screen. I hesitated. My mother and I had a complicated relationship. Cold. Polished, distant. She always said the right things to everyone else but treated me like I was a stranger in my own family. Still, I answered. Olivia, she said, her voice shaking. It's Grandpa. He fell. Badly. He's not doing well. We need you here. Please cancel your trip. He really needs you right now. My chest tightened. Grandpa? The only person in our family who never made me feel like an outsider? I'll be there in 20, I said, already grabbing my keys. I canceled everything. My flight, the conference, my pitch meeting with one of the largest hedge funds in the country. Because family comes first. Or so I thought. I pulled up to Grandpa's house in North Dallas. The front yard looked untouched. No signs of an ambulance or any distress. My stomach turned. I rushed to the door and let myself in with the spare key. Grandpa? In here, he called. I stepped into the sunroom and there he was, sitting upright in his recliner, book in hand, a glass of lemonade on the table beside him. No bruises, no bandages, not even a limp. Grandpa? I blinked. He smiled. Well, now this is a surprise. What are you doing here, Pumpkin? I dropped my purse. Mom said you fell. She said you were seriously injured. His face changed. The warmth vanished. He set the book down slowly and leaned forward. She said what? That you were hurt and needed me. She begged me to stay home. He rubbed his temples. She told me she was going to say something like that. She asked me to go along with it. I refused. My body went cold. Go along with it? She wanted me to pretend I was hurt. She said it was better for the family dynamic if you didn't go on the trip. Trip? I stared at him, the realization creeping in like a slow, icy tide. What trip? He hesitated. Grandpa, what trip? He sighed. They left for Maui this morning. Your mom, your dad, your brother Ethan, everyone. The whole family. I sank into the armchair across from him. No, that can't be right, I said. We'd been talking about a family vacation for months. I thought it got postponed. Grandpa didn't respond. He didn't have to. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text from my friend Jenna. Oof. Saw your brother's vacation pics. That's cold. I thought you were going too? I opened Instagram. Ethan had just posted a photo on the beach. He was holding a tropical drink, standing with my parents, smiling like his life was perfect. The caption? Nothing like family time in paradise. I zoomed in. My parents, my brother, even my cousins. But not me. I was never invited. My mom lied. She used Grandpa as an excuse to keep me away, to exclude me. Again, tears stung my eyes, but I forced them back. Grandpa reached over and gently patted my hand. I didn't want to believe it either. But it's time you knew. There's more to this, Olivia. A lot more. That night I barely slept. I sat awake on Grandpa's couch. His dog curled at my feet, my thoughts spiraling. I'd spent my whole life trying to win their approval, me mom's cold judgment, my dad's indifference, my brother's smug superiority. I thought if I worked harder, succeeded more, maybe they'd finally see me. They never did. And now they had gone behind my back and left me out of a family trip. Lied to me. Used Grandpa. But why? The answer came the next morning. Grandpa came down the stairs with a heavy-looking folder. I've been keeping this for a while. I hoped it wouldn't come to this. He laid it on the kitchen table. What is it? I asked, already feeling the weight of it. Proof, he said, that you were never the problem. Inside were trust fund documents, financial statements, bank transfers. The Zanders family trust established by my grandfather decades ago was worth over $5 million. It was meant to be split equally between me and Ethan when we turned 30. But somewhere along the line, the math had changed. "Where's my half?" I whispered, scanning through transfer after transfer. "It's gone," Grandpa said. "They've been funneling it to Ethan for years. Private school tuition, 2 businesses that failed, the Porsche, that house in Venice Beach." My chest clenched. "They've been stealing from me," I whispered. "Yes," Grandpa said. "And they used the fake emergency to keep you from going on the trip, because they finalized something while you weren't there." "What?" He pulled out another document. "The transfer of the Zanders Hotel Group or entire family business. It's now 100% under Ethan's name." I wanted to scream. All the long hours I worked, all the holidays I spent alone, all the therapy bills I paid trying to make peace with being the outsider. They had made it official. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. My parents always said I was too intense, too career-focused, too difficult. But Ethan, he could crash 2 startups in a year and still get a standing ovation at dinner. Grandpa watched me, waiting. Then he said something that lit a fire in me. "You don't have to let them get away with this." My head snapped up. "What if I told you I have someone who can help? Someone who can expose everything?" "Who?" Aunt Marianne. "My mom's older sister. The black sheep. The whistleblower. The family rebel. A woman I hadn't seen since I was 12. She was always the only one who saw through your mom's lies. And now she's a legal advisor for corporate fraud cases." My breath caught. "She knows how to burn it all down," Grandpa said, "and build something better." I looked at the folder in front of me. I thought about that Instagram post. My mother's lies. Ethan's smirk. Then I nodded. "Call her." "Hi again, it's Olivia. If you think my family's betrayal ended with a fake emergency call and a stolen $5 million, you're wrong. That was just the opening move. By the time I sat across from Aunt Marianne in my grandfather's study, the woman I barely remembered had already flipped through the trust fund documents like they were a criminal case, and in a way, they were. She closed the folder, narrowed her eyes, and said flatly, "They've been laundering your future through Ethan since college." I blinked. "That's dramatic." She tilted her head. "Is it? Look here." She pulled out a printed spreadsheet of bank transfers, some labeled tuition support, others seed capital, and many simply listed as family expense reimbursement. Every dollar that left your side of the trust was labeled as an investment in Ethan, she said, stabbing the paper with her finger. "You? Nothing. Not even a loan. And now they've filed to transfer the Zanders Hotel Group under his name exclusively based on his contributions to the family legacy. Olivia, you're being deleted, legally." It hit like a slap. The coldness of it. The strategy. "They're not just playing favorites anymore," I murmured. "They're rewriting the family story." Marianne nodded. "And we're going to stop them." The next 48 hours became a crash course in legal warfare. Grandpa gave us access to decades of records, old partnership contracts, letters between him and my father, and, most importantly, the founding agreement of the Zanders Trust. Right there in black and white. In the event of misconduct, embezzlement, or fraudulent misrepresentation by any trustee or beneficiary, distribution rights shall be reviewed and may be revoked. It was a lifeline. "I helped write this clause," Marianne said. "I was a junior associate back then. I knew your father would turn someday. Your grandfather insisted on protection. Good man. We built a case. Quietly. No dramatic showdowns, no public confrontations yet. But I couldn't help myself. I posted a single, subtle line on Instagram. When someone lies about a family emergency to steal your life savings, maybe it's time to go public. Number not the golden child." It exploded. People from my high school DM'd me. Distant cousins texted, "What happened?" And a reporter from a Dallas business paper sent me an email titled, Rumors of fraud at Zanders Hotel Group? The cracks had begun to show. Then the call came. "Olivia." My mom's voice was clipped, brittle. "What's this post you made?" "Oh, you mean the one about the fake emergency and the stolen inheritance?" I said. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she snapped. "It's not what you think." "Is that so?" I asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you manipulated me into missing a family trip and emptied my trust fund behind my back." "We did what was necessary for the family," she said coldly. You did what was convenient for Ethan." She hesitated. "He's better suited for the hotel business." There it was. The real reason. The quiet part out loud. "Not Olivia, we love you." "Not. You're part of this family too. Just, he's better." I smiled through my teeth. "Thanks for confirming." Click. Marianne and I launched our counteroffensive the next morning. First, she filed a temporary injunction to freeze the transfer of the Zanders Hotel Group. Second, we submitted a formal request to audit the family, triggering a forensic accounting review of every transfer, withdrawal, and modification from the past 10 years. And finally, Marianne contacted a journalist friend at the Dallas Herald. Within hours, an article hit the front page of the online edition. "Heiress left out. Olivia Zanders alleges $5 million trust theft by prominent Dallas family." The subhead? "Sources say family staged medical emergency to isolate her before finalizing business transfer to her brother." My phone exploded. Friends, coworkers, industry peers, even old flames. Ethan called 6 times. I didn't pick up. My parents' lawyer emailed Marianne directly. Cease and desist. Her response was a single line: "Disclose the Cayman account or prepare for criminal charges." Their silence confirmed everything, but even as I gathered strength, I didn't expect what came next. That night, Grandpa pulled me aside. "There's something I never told you," he said, placing a small lockbox in my lap. Inside were handwritten letters sewn for each major event in my life: my graduation, my first promotion, my 30th birthday. He had written them over the years but never mailed them, always afraid of upsetting my parents. In one of them he wrote, "I know you think I've been silent, but I've seen everything. I've watched how they treated you, how hard you worked while they celebrated Ethan for doing nothing. You were never invisible to me. You were the reason I built this legacy." I cried until my throat burned. Then I stood up, wiped my eyes, and said, "Let's burn their kingdom down." The next morning, Marianne filed the final motion requesting a full judicial hearing on breach of fiduciary duty and trust misappropriation. And we scheduled it for 2 weeks later. It would be public. On record. With witnesses. We weren't just fighting for money. We were fighting for the truth. And I was just getting started. The courtroom was colder than I expect emotionally, not just physically. A tall judge with sharp glasses sat behind the bench, flipping through our case file like it was just another boring lawsuit. But for me, this wasn't just paper and law. This was war. I sat beside Marianne, who looked composed and confident in a charcoal gray blazer. Across the room were my parents and Ethan. He looked too smug for someone facing a fraud investigation. My mother wore pearls and a stiff smile. My father avoided my gaze. This was our preliminary hearing to establish whether we had enough evidence to proceed to a full trial. We needed to prove that Ethan and my parents had misused funds from the Zanders family trust and manipulated my grandfather's business assets through deception. The court clerk called the session to order, and the tension snapped like a pulled rubber band. The first witness was Grandpa. He shuffled up to the stand slowly, dressed in his best suit, hands trembling but his voice was clear. "I established the trust to support both Olivia and Ethan equally. What's happened over the last 10 years has broken my heart." Marianne gently guided him through testimony. He described how he had noticed unusual transfers, questioned his son, my father, and was told not to worry that it was just bookkeeping. He admitted that he believed Ethan till I showed up at his house and revealed the lie about his so-called accident. "And you were never hurt?" Marianne asked. He shook his head. I was never hurt. My daughter Kelly made it up. She wanted Olivia to miss the trip, to keep her away while they completed something behind her back. And that something was? The transfer of our family business to Ethan, without Olivia's knowledge or consent, without even telling me. "Mes parents l'avaient objected." "Hearsay." "Withdrawn," Marianne said smoothly. "But it speaks volumes, Your Honor." The judge then asked to review the forensic audit. Our accountant presented graphs, reports, spreadsheets, years of transactions that showed a damning pattern. Millions had been quietly rerouted from my share of the trust to Ethan's benefit. At least $4.8 million. Cars, housing, startups, even private travel. And yet, my name had appeared only 3 times in 10 years. All 3 were for routine account renewals. No distributions. No payments. The judge raised an eyebrow. I saw my mother's posture stiffen. When it was my turn to speak, I stood slowly. My parents always told me to work hard and that everything I wanted I'd have to earn, I said. So I did. I worked hard. I went to college on scholarships. I took internships, stayed up late learning finance while Ethan partied. My voice quivered. I never asked for handouts, just fairness. I glanced at Ethan. He didn't look smug anymore. My mother told me my grandfather was injured just to keep me from a family trip. A trip that was, in reality, the moment they chose to finalize cutting me out. Not just emotionally, but financially. Legally. The judge looked up. Miss Zanders, what is it that you're asking this court to do? I want the trust returned to its original intent. I want the transfer of the Zanders Hotel Group rescinded. And I want the individuals responsible for this fraud held accountable. During a break, Ethan finally approached me. Liv, he said in a whisper. Don't do this. Do what? I asked, without turning to face him. You're humiliating Mom and Dad. You're tearing the family apart. You could just let this go. I turned then. Let this go? I said, quietly but firmly. You stole from me. You let them erase me. I didn't know. Yes, you did. I cut in. You just didn't care. As long as the money kept flowing. He took a step back, guilt creeping into his expression. You're the favorite, I said. Always were. But I was the one building my future. You were handed yours. And now, I'm taking mine back. He didn't reply, because there was nothing to say. That night, back at Grandpa's house, Marianne pulled out one last document. I've been holding on to this, she said, sliding it across the table. It's the original partnership agreement between your grandfather and your father when they first co-founded the hotel company. I scanned it. There, buried deep in legal jargon, was a clause. In the event of dishonesty, breach of fiduciary duty, or verified theft, the partner in question shall forfeit controlling interest back to the founder or his direct successor. May have dropped. Wait, that means you now hold the right to reclaim the hotel, she said. Legally. Grandpa nodded slowly. I'm naming you my successor, effective immediately. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Then I whispered, they won't see this coming. A few days later, Marianne filed the successor affidavit and control transfer notice with the court. It was official. I was now majority stakeholder in Zanders Hotel Group. And when the full court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later, we would push not just for reparation but for criminal prosecution. I checked my phone. Ethan had texted, You think this is over? It's not. We're still your family. I deleted it, because if they wanted war, they had it. But this time, I had the truth. And the law. And I was going to win. The day of the full court hearing arrived, and it felt like the air in Dallas had thickened with tension. Every step I took toward the courthouse felt like a drumbeat in my chest. But I wasn't scared not anymore. I wasn't that girl begging for approval or quietly hoping my family would do the right thing. I was Olivia Zanders. And today, I wasn't walking into a courtroom. I was walking into a reckoning. The gallery was packed journalists, distant relatives, and former business partners who once toasted my father now sat grim-faced, waiting for truth to unfold. The buzz around the Zanders scandal had reached every corner of the Dallas business scene. What started as a private betrayal had become a very public collapse. My mother sat rigid in a beige pantsuit. Lips pursed so tightly I thought they'd disappear into her face. My father was pale, his hands trembling just slightly noticeable to someone who knew him well. And Ethan? He looked like he hadn't slept in days. I almost pitied him. Almost. Mariana started strong. We are here today to reclaim what was stolen, not just in dollars but in dignity, she began, voice unwavering. The plaintiff, Olivia Zanders, was not only defrauded of nearly $5 million, but was deliberately deceived by her family. Lies were told, a fake medical emergency staged, and while she was kept away, her inheritance and future were rewritten without her knowledge. The judge nodded, then turned to our side. "Present your first piece of evidence." Marianne stepped forward with the original trust documents, including the clause naming me as a co-beneficiary. Then came the spreadsheet of stolen funds, the private jet rentals, the overseas investments in Ethan's name, a luxury condo in Miami, all paid for by my portion of the trust. And finally, the nail in the coffin, the control transfer of Zanders Hotel Group, finalized while I was tricked into missing the family trip. "You'll note," Marianne said, "that Olivia was told her grandfather had a medical emergency. In truth, he was never injured. It was a deliberate lie, a distraction." My parents' attorney tried to argue that the family was merely consolidating assets for long-term strategy. But then Grandpa took the stand. "I founded this business," he said, voice steady but thick with emotion. "I built it from the ground up, and I created the trust so both of my grandchildren would benefit. What they've done to Olivia goes against everything I stand for." He pulled out the last piece of evidence, the founding partnership clause Marianne had discovered. "And according to this contract," Grandpa said, "I now rescind my son's controlling interest, effective immediately. I name Olivia Zanders as the sole legal heir to Zanders Hotel Group." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My father's face went red. Ethan's mouth fell open. The judge raised his gavel and banged it down. "We'll take a brief recess." Outside the courtroom, the air buzzed with whispered conversations and media flashbulbs. A reporter shoved a mic toward me. "Olivia, is it true your parents emptied your trust while giving your brother everything?" I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The documents spoke louder than I ever could. During recess, Ethan approached me in the hallway. His skin was pale, eyes bloodshot. "You've made your point," he said through clenched teeth. "No," I replied. "I've only just started." He scoffed. "You think this makes you better? You're just bitter. Because they chose me." "They didn't choose you, Ethan," I said, stepping closer. "They used you, as a vessel, as a cover. But now that it's all crumbling, you're realizing what the rest of us already knew." He flinched. "And what's that?" "That they never respected either of us. They just needed someone easier to control. I wasn't it." "You were." I walked away before he could respond. Back in court, the final witness was an unexpected one. Ashley, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. She walked in wearing a navy blue blazer, hair tied back, voice clear. "My name is Ashley Cooper. I was in a relationship with Ethan Zanders for 2 years. During that time, I witnessed numerous conversations between him and his parents discussing ways to legally cut Olivia out of the family trust." The courtroom froze. She continued, "Ethan once bragged that Olivia was too obsessed with work to notice money disappearing. He said as long as he kept playing the perfect son, his parents would give him the entire business. I have screenshots." She submitted them to the court. The judge reviewed the messages, his expression turning from neutral to grim. "I've seen enough." The final ruling came swift and sharp. Based on the overwhelming evidence of financial manipulation, breach of trust, and orchestrated deceit, the court hereby nullifies all asset transfers benefiting Ethan Zanders. Control of Zanders Hotel Group is restored to the rightful heir, Olivia Zanders. Restitution is to be determined in a separate hearing. This court is adjourned. My hands trembled. It was done. I had won. But justice didn't stop at court. Days later, the IRS and the Financial Crimes Division launched separate investigations. Turns out my parents hadn't just stolen from me. They had underreported assets for years, avoided taxes, hidden overseas accounts. When the feds showed up at their house, it wasn't just for questioning. It was with arrest warrants. Ethan disappeared from public view. No more smug Instagram posts. No more private jets. My parents tried to spin the narrative. My mom gave an interview to a gossip site claiming I was jealous and emotionally unstable. He didn't clap back. I didn't need to. Because every day, more people saw the truth. That weekend, I walked through the lobby of Zanders Hotel Group as its rightful owner. Employees nodded respectfully. One even whispered, "We're glad it's you now." I passed the portraits on the wall photos of Grandpa and my dad when the company first opened. Next to them now hung a new portrait. Mine. The first woman in the Zanders family to run the empire. And the first one to do it without stealing a damn thing. The morning after the courtroom victory, I stood on the rooftop terrace of Zanders Towerance, my father's crown jewel. The city skyline stretched out before me like a blank page. I held a ceramic mug of black coffee in my hands, the steam warming my face as a breeze swept across the terrace. Everything had changed. The business was mine. The legacy they tried to erase was now fully in my control. But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Because the mess they left behind was still smoldering. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Zanders Hotel Group was in worse shape than I'd realized. While my parents lived lavishly, the company had been bleeding cash. Vendors hadn't been paid in months. 2 lawsuits were pending. 3 general managers had quit in the last year. Morale among employees? Non-existent. So I rolled up my sleeves. Every day, I met with department heads, listened to concerns, and brought in new leadership, including a new CFO with a spotless reputation and 0 ties to the Zanders name. I cut off all non-essential spending, sold my father's luxury penthouse, and used the proceeds to cover unpaid salaries. I wasn't just fixing numbers. I was rebuilding trust. And yet, despite the progress, the betrayal still haunted me. Every time I walked past my father's old office or opened another document signed Ethan Zanders, Executive Officer, a part of me clenched. Because even after all the courtroom battles and frozen accounts, I still hadn't heard a word from Ethan. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. Until one Friday afternoon. Marianne stepped into my office with a grim expression. "You need to see this," she said, placing a legal envelope on my desk. Inside was a petition. Ethan Zanders, 5 Olivia Zanders, filed in civil court. He was challenging the ruling, claiming I manipulated Grandpa, that I coerced him in his old age to take back the business and cut Ethan out. "He's trying to reverse the ruling through a guardianship challenge," Marianne said, fuming. "He's saying your grandfather was mentally unfit to reassign ownership." I stared at the paper, feeling the breath leave my lungs. "He's going to try to prove I influenced Grandpa," I said slowly. "Like I planned this." She nodded. "We'll fight it. It's baseless. But it's ugly. It's personal." And it was just the beginning. The next blow came from social media. Ethan had launched a PR campaign. He posted a video standing outside his now empty apartment, claiming he was the real victim. My sister always resented me. She used her influence and some old legal tricks to steal what my father built. Our parents are in jail. Our family is destroyed. And she calls it justice. The video went viral. Thousands of likes. Sympathy comments. People reposting it with captions like, "Corporate siblings, am I right?" I was livid. But Marianne warned me not to react. "He's baiting you. Stay silent. Let the truth win, not the noise." It was good advice. Hard to follow, but good. That weekend, I retreated to Grandpa's lake house. I needed space. Quiet. No headlines. No meetings. Just peace. Grandpa sat beside me on the porch, a blanket over his legs, looking out at the water. "I saw the video," he said. "I figured," I replied. "He always knew how to spin a story," Grandpa muttered. "But he never had the backbone to live it." I looked at him. "Do you regret naming me successor?" He turned to me, eyes sharp despite his age. "Olivia, I regret giving your father the benefit of the doubt for so long. I regret letting your mother poison this family with her obsession with appearances. But you?" He smiled. "I don't regret a thing. You're the only one who earned this legacy." Tears stung my eyes. I looked away before they fell. Back in Dallas, we went on the offensive. Marianne filed a countersuit for defamation. We gathered medical evaluations showing Grandpa was mentally sharp, including 3 from independent physicians. We compiled depositions from former employees who witnessed Ethan bragging about the money he took, the power he assumed. Then we went back to the courtroom. This time, it wasn't about who owned what. It was about character. The judge listened as our medical experts testified that Grandpa was mentally sound sharper, in fact, than most people 10 years younger. He watched surveillance footage of Grandpa walking, reading, giving interviews. And then came the kicker. Ashley, Ethan's ex, returned to the stand. "I was with Ethan the night they finalized the transfer," she said. "He knew Olivia would never agree, so they did it behind her back. He laughed about it. Said, 'By the time she finds out, it'll be too late.'" The courtroom went silent. Even Ethan looked rattled. The judge turned to him. "Mr. Zanders, do you deny making that statement?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't remember saying that exactly." "Then let me refresh your memory," Marianne said, holding up her phone. She played an audio clip. Ethan's voice clear as day. "Olivia's too busy being a martyr. She'll never see this coming. She'll cry, then get over it. And I'll still have the keys to the kingdom." The judge dismissed Ethan's petition that same day and sanctioned him for filing in bad faith. After court, Ethan finally approached me in the parking garage. "Congrats," he said bitterly. "You win." He didn't smile. "I never wanted to compete with you," I said. "I just wanted to belong." He looked away. "I hope someday you realize that all the money in the world doesn't buy peace." He didn't respond. Just walked off into the shadows. And for the first time, I felt sorry for him. Truly sorry. Because he would never know the strength it takes to build something from the ground up. And I did. That night, back at Zanders Tower, the executive team surprised me with a framed plaque for my office. It read, "To Olivia Zanders, for restoring integrity where there was none, and proving that legacy is earned, not inherited." I stared at it, speechless. I had come full circle from forgotten daughter to CEO, from outcast to leader. I hung it on the wall behind my desk and smiled. When I first stepped into the corner office as the new CEO of Zanders Hotel Group, I thought the hardest part was over. The lies were exposed. My name was cleared. Ethan's smear campaign had crumbled under the weight of the truth. My parents were awaiting sentencing. The empire they tried to build on deception had fallen spectacularly. But as I stared at the spreadsheets, damage reports, unpaid invoices, and tarnished vendor relationships, I realized winning the battle didn't rebuild the kingdom. And if I was going to honor Grandpa's trust in Maeve, I was going to prove they had always bet on the wrong child. I needed to do more than survive. I needed to transform. My first executive order? A complete audit of every property Zanders Hotel Group owned. What we found was even worse than expected. Some properties were bleeding cash from neglected renovations. Others were tied to unethical third-party contractors handpicked by Ethan because of family favors. There was even a beachfront hotel that had been collecting consulting fees for someone listed as Kelly Jameson, me, mother's maiden name. I ordered that one shut down immediately. Then I brought in a new team. Experts in sustainability, customer service, and ethical sourcing. I didn't want to just repair the brand, I wanted to rebuild it around integrity. Our new slogan? Zanders, hospitality with a heart. It wasn't just branding. It was the truth. And for the first time, people believed it. 1 month into the transformation, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived handwritten, folded into crisp thirds. From Ethan. I hesitated before opening it, half expecting more manipulation. But the words inside were different. "Olivia, you probably don't believe me, and I wouldn't blame you. But I need to say this anyway. I was jealous of your independence, your success, your ability to walk away when I kept playing the game. I let them use me, and I used that to justify using you. I wanted to believe I deserved what I took, but deep down, I knew I didn't. I'm leaving Dallas. I need a clean break. But I hope, someday, we can talk again." I read it 3 times. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me still burned with betrayal. Another part remembered being kids, sharing secrets under the dining table, making up stories about taking over the world. That part softened, just a little, but I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. While the company thrived under its new ethics-first model, the fallout from my parents' criminal case became national news. They were sentenced to 5 years each for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to defraud a trust. As part of restitution, the court ordered their remaining assets liquidated, including the mansion I grew up in. The house that once stood for legacy, for family status, for everything I thought I wanted, was now a listing on Zillow, Pre-foreclosure 6-bed, 7-bath, gated once owned by the Zanders family. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just closed the tab. Because that wasn't my home anymore. Months passed. The company's reputation soared. Zanders Hotel Group won an award for Best Turnaround in Hospitality. Our staff bonuses increased. Our vendors re-signed. A documentary crew even approached us to tell the story of the company's dramatic rise from scandal to redemption. But what truly sealed it? Grandpa. One quiet morning, he stood in the lobby of our flagship hotel, watching guests check in. He turned to me and smiled. "You've made this place feel like a family again." I didn't cry then. I waited until I got back to my office. And when I did, I wept not from grief, but from release. From knowing I had finally built something real, on my own terms, without apology, without begging, without faking. Then one day, while reviewing renovation plans for our New York expansion, a front desk associate buzzed me. "Miss Zanders? There's a visitor here to see you. Says it's urgent." I walked out to the lobby and froze. It was Ashley, Ethan's ex, the whistleblower who helped us in court. She looked nervous, but not defeated. "I hope this isn't a bad time," she said. "Not at all," I replied, motioning her in. "What's going on?" She sat across from me in the glass-walled conference room, her hands clasped tightly. "I wanted to thank you. What you did, what you stood up for it, gave me the courage to make my own changes. I left Dallas. I got certified as a financial fraud investigator. I've been working cases like yours for other women who've been cut out, cheated, manipulated by families or spouses." He blinked. "That's incredible," she smiled. "And I wanted to ask if you'd consider sponsoring a new foundation, one that helps women fight financial abuse within families. We'd call it the Olivia Fund." My breath caught. No one had ever said that before. "A fund in my name?" I nodded slowly. "Yes," I whispered. "Let's do it." That night, I walked through the halls of Zanders HQ alone. The halls were quiet, the air thick with the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. I paused in front of a wall we dedicated to the company's history. There were portraits of my grandfather, and now one of me. No trace of Ethan. No trace of my parents. Just legacy redefined. Built not on deception, but on resilience. The sun hung low over the Dallas skyline, golden light spilling across the polished marble lobby of the brand-new Zanders Tower. Staff bustled with energy, guests arrived in sleek black cars, and across every wall, the company's new slogan gleamed proudly. Zanders, hospitality with a heart. Today wasn't just the grand opening of our flagship hotel. It was the first day of a new legacy mine. And I was going to mark it with something my parents never understood. Gratitude. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew a full crowd. Press, investors, partners, and every employee who had stood by me in the messiest chapter of my life were there. I wore a white dress not because I wanted to look angelic, but because white was the color of clean slates. When the MC called my name, the applause felt surreal. I stepped up to the podium, cleared my throat, and spoke into the mic. When I was younger, I used to believe legacy was something you inherited, something passed down in a will. But I've learned that legacy is something you build with every hard choice, every line you draw, every time you choose to rise after being broken. Zanders Hotel Group was built twice, first by my grandfather, and now by all of us together. This is not just a hotel, it's a promise. That integrity still matters. That kindness is still profitable. That family is more than Bloodits who shows up when everything falls apart. I looked into the crowd, saw Grandpa smiling with teary eyes, and raised the ceremonial scissors. "Let's cut a new beginning." After the applause died down and the cameras were put away, I took a moment to walk through the space alone. From the marble lobby to the garden rooftop lounge, everything echoed the new mission. Elegance without arrogance, warmth without manipulation, honesty above all. As I stepped into the executive suite reserved for high-profile guests, I caught a glimpse of myself in the floor-to-ceiling mirror. There she was, Olivia Zanders, CEO, survivor, builder, and no longer anyone's afterthought. Later that night, as the party unfolded downstairs, I stood on the rooftop terrace with Grandpa. The skyline shimmered below us. "You did it," he said quietly. "You took the wreckage and built a cathedral." I smiled. Not alone. I had help, from people who saw me. Really saw me. He placed a hand on mine. "You're the best of us. They just never took the time to notice." I leaned into him, warmth blooming in my chest. Then the elevator dinged, and a familiar voice said, "Olivia." I turned. Ethan. He looked smaller, not physically, but something about his posture, his expression. The fire was gone. "I know I wasn't invited," he said, hands raised. "I just needed to see it." The new Zanders. He didn't speak. He walked to the railing and looked out at the skyline. "I heard about the Olivia Fund, about Ashley, about the company's turnaround. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you." I studied him carefully. There was no arrogance, no smugness, just a man who had finally hit the bottom and stopped digging. I nodded. "That means more than you know." He turned to leave. "Ethan," I said, stopping him, "I meant what I said in court. I didn't want to win. I wanted to belong. I wanted a brother." He swallowed. "You had one. You just didn't know it. Until it was too late." And with that, he disappeared into the elevator. A week later, I received an anonymous donation to the Olivia Fund. Sure. Ling. From EZ. Months passed. Zanders Hotel Group expanded to Chicago and Miami. The Olivia Fund launched 3 financial education programs for young women navigating family wealth. Grandpa passed away peacefully in his sleep, his legacy finally in good hands. At his funeral, people from all walks of life came to pay their respects. Housekeepers, executives, baristas, bellhops. He had touched them all. He left me a letter. "Legacy is not what you leave in the vault. It's what you leave in people's hearts. And you, Olivia, have filled more hearts than I ever could. Love, Grandpa." I kept it framed on my desk. Today, when people say my name, they no longer picture scandal or courtroom drama. They picture leadership, empathy, strength, and yes, revenge, served with class. Because I didn't just reclaim what they stole, I redefined it. Zanders is no longer a dynasty built on deception. It's a home I built with truth, brick by brick, smile by smile. And I don't need their approval anymore. Because when I walk through these halls, I know exactly who I am. Not just Olivia Zanders, but the woman who turned betrayal into an empire and wrote her own story start to finish,